Welcome, I'm your host, Jana Rosenberg, and this is The Spotlight. The footage you just saw was shot by our guest, Zach Holman, the owner of On Scene TV. Okay, Zach, the first thing I thought about when I saw your highlight reel was all of the wildfires we've just had here recently in California. Tell us a little bit about your experience collecting all of that video footage.
You know, the wildfires we just had here from Ventura all the way down to San Diego, I guess is the largest wildfire in California state history. So as far as the challenges, I mean, where do I even start? We had high wind conditions, prevailing winds that were just causing, I mean, that's pretty much why it was so dangerous. I mean, it was literally just jumping from house to house to house. We had a full staff working up there. We had 24-hour coverage from beginning to end. The entire team was at the Ventura fire and the San Diego fire. I mean, it was just, there's really no way to really put it into words. The images definitely, I mean, show what we were looking at, but unless you're there and you can feel the heat and see all the loss and all the destruction, it's really difficult to describe it. But I mean, that and the subsequent mudslides afterwards, the loss of property and life up there was something that I've never seen before. Very
emotionally draining too, I can only imagine. You've been in some very dangerous situations. Let's take a look at this clip we have. Pretty crazy to see.
So what you just saw there was an explosion caused by molten titanium and magnesium in a warehouse. We weren't aware at the time that that's what was inside the building, because if we were, we would have been a couple blocks the other direction. This is the result of adding water to that mixture, and obviously it went catastrophic. I had some shrapnel in my shoulder as well as a light concussion. This would be a prime example of a situation where very dangerous what we do.
Definitely. Well, I'm glad you only walk away with minor injuries so far. Let's go behind the scenes about what you do on a normal night. Let's take a look.
They're down 18620 Harris Street. Wait.
So it looks like right now they're just looking for where the crime scene starts. You can see the officer with the crime scene tape behind you. Some suspects approached him, asked him who he was with, where he was from, whatever, some type of gang thing. This guy's probably not a gang member. He said, "Hey, I'm not a gang member." Suspects fired a couple shots at him, or one round that we found so far, striking him in the hand. LAPD overhearing what they were talking about, they're saying it was possibly a .22, so a small caliber round. Non-life threatening, obviously, at this point. But the fact that it was an attempted robbery, because I asked him if he had any money, that's kind of the angle on this. So, better than nothing, right?
Now I want to dive a little bit further into what your job is. I have to ask, was the movie Nightcrawler an accurate representation of what a stringer really is?
You know, I really don't want to, discredit Jake Gyllenhaal too much. I think he did a fantastic job with his character and everything that he did in that film. But the way that the on-scene TV guys and myself, the way that we handle ourselves at scenes, we're very, very focused on working with local law enforcement and fire personnel to, capture the images and the events that are unfolding as quickly as we can. And we're very professional about how we handle these situations. Showing us as a group of people who are going around and taking advantage of this stuff, I mean, that's the farthest from the truth. We are very, very focused on doing the right thing and making sure that we're covering a situation from beginning to end as accurately as possible.
Absolutely. And this isn't really a job that you decide you want to do when you're young and you grow up and say, hey, I want to be a stringer. How did you get into this? When did this start for you?
Yeah, it's not the kind of thing, I mean, I didn't even know the job existed. It's not the kind of thing you wake up in the morning and go, I want to be a freelance photojournalist. I was working in housing enforcement out of high school, doing LAPD subcontract work. Did that for about 2.5 years, loved that. But I did a ride-along with On Scene TV at the time and completely fell in love with journalism, completely fell in love with the cinematography that goes into it, the chase, the adrenaline, all that stuff. It really was something that spoke to me on a personal level. The situation that we're looking at here is a project that we worked on with LAPD with the Lock It, Hide It, Keep It campaign, and this was like a PSA that they put together to try and keep people from getting their cars burglarized and stuff like that. And my experience working with LAPD and working with the department really prepared me for this situation. You can see we had this guy stealing a bike out of a car, and the takedown team was right there to get him into custody. So situations like this, stuff that we specialize in.
Amazing, amazing. Now we have information that you were the only stringer on site when the Hollywood arsonist was arrested. Is that one of your proudest moments in your career thus far?
It's to this day, it's still the highest grossing incident in the company's history, and we've been around since like 1996, so this was a big deal. This guy, the suspect in this, Harry Burkhardt, he was a German national who actually immigrated to the United States through Canada. He lit about 50 fires during his arson spree with the intent to end life. He was trying to kill people. He lit carport fires underneath occupied dwellings. I went to every single fire from beginning to end. I saw all the destruction. Basically, being at the right place at the right time on this and getting the shot of him right here being taken into custody was, like I said, it was the right time, right place, and I just happened to be the right guy to get the shot. So very lucky, but I covered every single fire, and it was kind of like after going through all that, this is the least this guy could do.
Definitely. And you've seen a lot of death and destruction, but tell us about the miracles that you've witnessed.
That is true. There's a lot of the day-to-day for us is people losing their lives and car crashes, homicide scenes, fires. It definitely wears on you after a while. But I really look for those situations where there was a positive story. I love stories like that. This would be an example of that. This gentleman was traveling at a high rate of speed up the 2 freeway, and crashed into the back of a big rig, and he's very, very lucky to be alive.
Definitely. Very lucky. Well, Zach, that's all we have time for tonight, but thank you so much for being here.
Anytime.
This has been such a treat to hear about this. If you want more information about Zach Holman, you can go to onscene.tv, or you can also check him out on the Netflix show Shot in the Dark. Thanks again for tuning in. Be sure to be right back here next week for another episode of The Spotlight. I'm your host, Jana Rosenberg. Good night.